So I'm Brian, and I am a Microsoft MVP and MCT, and I am going on. This is the completion of my fifth year as an MCT, and the end of my fourth year as an MVP will be in July, and hopefully I'll go on with both of those into the future. I have a number of Azure certifications. I do a lot of Azure certification training, and I also do a lot of boot camp C# training, as well as teach computer science, data structures, and algorithms, and do some consulting on the side. I also do music. So if you are so inclined, you can listen to my music on Spotify, and I'll make about 0.0009 cents per play if you're a premium subscriber. So get really rich really fast on that one.
Nice. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next installment of Azure Cloud Talk. I'm one of your hosts, Alec Harrison, here with co-host Brian, who froze, but maybe didn't freeze. How's it going, Brian?
Well, I wasn't quite ready for you to push the record button that time, even though you had already asked me if I was ready, and I said sure. Oops.
It's all good. So I think with this New Year's episode, Happy New Year, Brian. We chatted a little bit before this, but hopefully 2024 was a good year for you. 25 is hopefully even better, even if it wasn't a great year. I mean, there's always the future. One thing we talked about is potentially if this is people's first time tuning into the podcast or whatnot, maybe reintroducing yourself a little bit. So, who is Brian and why should we care what you have to say?
That's the $1,000,000 question, and I wish I knew who I was. No. So I'm Brian, and I am a Microsoft MVP and MCT, and I am going on. This is the completion of my fifth year as an MCT, and the end of my fourth year as an MVP will be in July, and hopefully I'll go on with both of those into the future. I have a number of Azure certifications. I do a lot of Azure certification training, and I also do a lot of boot camp C# training, as well as teach computer science, data structures, and algorithms, and do some consulting on the side. I also do music. So if you are so inclined, you can listen to my music on Spotify, and I'll make about 0.0009 cents per play if you're a premium subscriber. So get really rich really fast on that one.
Nice. Do you have any free content people can tune into if they want to get a preview of what it's like learning with you or want to get into programming?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I actually have a really old Java course on Udemy, and the first couple modules are free on that. I pretty much have the first module free on all my stuff. So if you go to training.majorguidance.solution, I can't even talk, training.majorguidancesolutions.com/courses, you'll see all the courses I have. And yeah, I've got some Git stuff. I've got ASP.NET Web. I'm redoing and starting. I'm actually hoping to publish in May-ish a C# foundational course. And there's a number of other things that follow that. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled, and also would love to get any feedback from anybody if you do happen to check out a video. Also, you can find me on YouTube. I did some stuff a few years ago with Opsgility on AZ204. It's a pretty popular video. It's kind of getting dated now, but it's still pretty relevant. And, Alec and I do the Azure Cloud Workshops. So if you go to github.com/Azure Cloud Workshops, you will find the formerly known as Microsoft Cloud Workshops being hopefully mostly maintained for a few of them anyway. So the history behind that real quick, there is a story there. Is that Microsoft used to do cloud workshops, and they had these really nice paths to learn stuff. And as a trainer who needed to get a lot of certifications, I felt like it was one step above academic, which I would call Learn Academic. And it's very great material on Learn. It is just a little bit prescriptive at times and very much the happy path to the solution every time. Whereas the Microsoft Cloud Workshops were a really nice intermediate level between, I don't have any idea what I'm doing, and I know I need to build this thing. Here's some documents to look at and see if I can get it to work. And hey, I know I need to build this thing like Service Bus, and here's a very simple code that just communicates to Service Bus and doesn't do anything else. So we have all kinds of them out there. to be honest, a number of them need to be updated. We'll probably talk about that a little bit, maybe not today, but as we go, like, Microsoft changes stuff. Surprise, surprise. Anyway, I'm getting a little lengthy on this discussion here, but I want to mention one point. The reason I think, and I don't know, I don't have insider information, but I really think the reason they got rid of the Microsoft Cloud Workshops is that, number one, they are hard to maintain. So if you see them and you want to fix them, we love contributions. We would love help maintaining those repos. It's a good way to get your name on a repo if you want that, or just to help us have better material. Or if you're a trainer and you need material to train with, you're happy to use it. They're all MIT licensed, so you are free to take them and do with them as you please. However, be reasonable with that. Don't sell them on the street in New York, like as a pirated DVD or something. But I guess you could do that if you really wanted to. But good luck. And then, really, at the end of the day, they have this new initiative called the Applied Skills Challenges. So if you've not heard of these, they're free. And if you go to your Learn profile and you do your credentials, there's certifications and there's applied skills. So there are now paths for a number of different things where you can literally sit in your house for free, do some Learn material so that you're ready for it. And then you have a 2-hour open book take home assessment that costs you nothing. And if you pass that within that 2 hours, you get a credential on your Learn profile. So I'm actually looking right now at a cloud networking one as well as the Azure Container Apps one. And I'm hopeful that they'll continue to build more of these. And I'm assuming they will. And I feel like this is the stopgap between the academic and the actual like hackathon where you have to just figure everything out on your own. So again, that's the Microsoft Applied Skills, and they're very awesome. They're completely free. And I need to get some so that I can talk more to you guys about all of that stuff. So, I don't know. Did you ask about goals for 2025? You did before.
Yeah, we can roll into that.
So just real quick, 2025, I almost pretty much laid out a couple of things there. Number one is obviously I would like to get some applied skills challenge completed and continue with MVP and MCT. I want to get a couple of courses published, continue to train, and do all the things with my family that I want to do, and maybe someday have some time to do some more music. All right, Alec,
Nice.
Your turn. That's enough about me. Who is Alec, and what does Alec do, and why does Alec get up in the morning?
I get up in the morning because it's a biological thing, or my alarm is screeching too loud. I'd say a Microsoft MVP going on my second full year is just ending, I think. Um, Feels like it's been a lot longer in a good way. Just the amount of people I've met. Brian, you as well. Like I don't think we met. Uh, we met when I was at a previous employer, and you actually did some Azure training for me through Javier Lozano, who was a previous guest of the podcast. Great guy. Kind of took me under his wing as far as the Microsoft MVP program went. And super awesome dude, runs .NET Foundation. You should check him out and check out that episode if you haven't. As a part of that, we kind of founded this podcast because we had fun doing the Azure Cloud workshops, just hanging out, and we just touch base and chat every once in a while. And we're like, maybe there's some people who want to talk about this or listen in, because we'd sometimes get on the rails of ranting why we don't like Terraform. And, infrastructure is code, all that sort of stuff, and just nuances of, I think Brian and I did one-on-one training, so I kind of hijacked some of your materials as well. Of the academic stuff is really great, especially if you're trying to get certifications.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, there is sometimes a gap between purely academic material and then doing the thing.
Right.
So I think I had the fun exposure too of working with you of, hey, it's great that academically a SaaS token works this way, but like, what happens if we start to use it?
Right.
This is how a service bus works. What happens if we start to use it? What happens if we try to overload it or break it? And we had a lot of fun going through that of seeing how some of this stuff works in practice. We continued to build our friendship to the point that we just now talk once a week so we can let everybody listen and do it and do that. I also run a couple user groups. I think that's how I got noticed for MVP. Started with the Iowa Microsoft Azure user group. which is in the process of rebranding. And then we also help a few other areas too, like Kansas City and Chicago right now. And then you'll see me in person at the Omaha Azure user group. So pretty involved in the user group community, talk slash just be behind the scenes and run it. So I blog at azurebarista.com. I'm hoping to come out with a newsletter. So stay
Now
tuned
I
for
need
that.
coffee.
Yeah. That's 2025 goal of mine, I think, is buy me a coffee, Patreon, something to that effect. The newsletter. I think just staying better connected with people too. We meet a lot of really cool and interesting people, and it's real easy to say, so and so is a great person. We should have him on again. It's a totally different thing to say we should have him on again and actually follow through to, um, scheduling that and getting on the books. Because some people are harder to schedule than others. I will say I try to be as normal or as I would, if this mic wasn't here, this is how I think you and I would talk. And so if we say we should have somebody on again, I believe we truly mean it. It's just a matter of once you get into the rigmarole of stuff, or, if you're booked out already a month and a half, it's real easy the next time you need to start thinking about scheduling. Oh, hey, remember so and so? We should have them on again. I think that's one thing that we need to. I want to personally be better at is if we say we're going to have somebody on, not just say it to say it, but actually have the follow through of, hey, here's some dates, pick one, and let me know.
So I don't know what's going on here, but I'm feeling a little like maybe we slighted somebody. Is there somebody we forgot to get back on?
I don't think so. There's just people I
Okay.
would like to talk to again that we just
Well,
haven't.
yeah. We
I
have
think
our,
it's
have our core group of friends, right? Bring them all in. Should have a panel.
yeah. Well, I think it's even fun. Like I think Javier was one that was interesting. We had Tim on, and he's like, "Oh, you should ask him about this story." And I was like, "Oh, like just seeing these other connections within the Microsoft community of people who know each other, who I didn't know. I mean, you can look at LinkedIn connections, right, and be like, "Oh, it looks like Brian knows these 50 people," but like, I don't know about you, Brian, but like I get LinkedIn connections all the time, and more often than not, I'll accept them, and it doesn't necessarily mean like, or it's like somebody you met at a conference once, right? And you had maybe a 20-minute conversation. You're like, "Oh, if you ever
Where
need
you
any help,
where
let
you
me
posted
know."
that you were in love with them so you could get the scooter and didn't get the scooter, so then you took it down.
Yeah, that was a thing.
Uh, so I used to be a LinkedIn open networker. So I built up a lot of connections that way that are people I've never met in real life. And they always say on
Mhm,
there, don't connect to people you don't like or don't know. I
mhm.
think honestly, like that's the worst decision you could make. Like the only way you're ever going to build your network is to connect with people you don't know. Now, granted, there's warm connections and cold connections, so don't just go spam connecting to everybody and be like, "I need connections for my network," because you're going to get like shot down. But if you have things in common and there's something general that you might be able to talk to that person about, or have a question for that person, you can always reach out. There's no reason not to. And the as long as if you send me a connection on LinkedIn, as long as you're not trying to sell me something, I'll connect with you. And like pretty much it's a no-brainer if I see that you do anything in the tech space, I'll connect with you without even worries, because I want to know why you think you want to talk to me, and or just to know me. And even if it is because you hope someday you'll leverage my network, which I don't know what that would ever do for you, but whatever. Um, the thing that I was talking about with students a couple months ago, and I think we've said it on here. If not, we've said it somewhere. I've said it somewhere, but basically, like the time you need your network is too late to build the network.
Mhm.
So don't mess around and be like scared and all that jazz. Just reach out. I mean, what's the worst somebody's gonna do? Be like, leave me alone, you jerk. I doubt it. Most people will just, they might ignore your request. Okay, that's no skin on, big deal. Maybe they don't connect with everybody. Maybe there's other reasons, like, social reasons or whatever that these people don't connect with you. But I wouldn't take it personally. I would just say, okay, I'll just connect with someone else. Right. I
Well,
don't
and I
know.
think the To your point, I think you've also said that like the best jobs you've ever gotten have come from people you
Yes.
know as well.
Absolutely. Every good job I've ever had has come from a connection, not from a recruiter or a job ad. No, I've had good jobs that paid well, that I got from recruiters and that I also got through paid, advertisements or whatever on Dice or whatever. Somebody put it out there and I connected with it and got the job. But the best jobs that I've ever gotten have always been, hey, I know this guy or girl, and they need your help on this thing. Why don't you go talk to them? And then, bam. Even my first job out of college, uh, I was working as a telemarketer, for crying out loud. I mean, I sold car insurance for Geico before I went back to school, so I have phone experience up the wazoo, which is probably why I don't like being on the phone right now, in my life, because like I was on it for so long. But if you need to know about car insurance, I used to know a lot about it. Anyway, I was working at this little telemarketing firm. So for those millennials in here who don't know what telemarketing is, we used to call people cold all night long and ask them if they wanted to sign up for like Discover Card or Sports Illustrated magazine or whatever it was, the flavor of the month. And if we sold so many an hour, we got a bonus or whatever. And yeah, oh yeah, we Geico, we're sponsorable. You know what? I'll even I can't do it. I was going to try to do a British accent, like we'll even talk like a British, but I can't do it. So, uh, a little Geico gecko. So Geico car insurance, 15 minutes can save you whatever 15% or more. All right. Anyway, sorry. I do have
That was
good
my bad.
commercial.
I derailed us.
Yeah, you totally derailed me. I don't even remember what I was talking about now. Something about telemarketing. Yeah, I was selling stuff on the phone, right? So, but then I ended up doing an Excel spreadsheet VBA app for the company. And like, oh, you kind of know this stuff. I'm like, well, I'm getting a degree in it, and so then like that was great, but um, got me off the phone for a few minutes anyway. But then my buddy was actually running a company, and so he's like, I need this program, so I started working with him, and that was my first job out of college. I didn't even put in a resume. So from there, I went to greater things, but it was a fun start. Best jobs ever come from people you know.
Yeah, and I even like getting introduced to the MVP program. I remember my first gig out of college. Somebody at Source Allies, Carter Winton. If you guys are in Des Moines, you probably have met him before. He's always around. He actually had me sit down with Javier one morning because like we were doing some authorization authentication stuff, and our client had never done it before. It was the first time we were rolling it out. I was like, "Hey, here's what I think you need to do," and we just sat and chatted for like an hour about authentication authorization. Of like, does this sound like we're doing the right thing, or are we just completely off the wall here? And that turned into emailing every now and again, just staying in touch, and it led to his help with the you know getting into the MVP program and how to position yourself to do that. And that was just we had coffee one morning. It was just something that could have been small and moved on and be like, yeah, I've met him once and never again. Or now we chat. I think once in a while and on podcasts. So I think it's to your point. It's one of those things that like you never really know. Just be open to it. Talk to people. Um, keep up those connections, which is something I think I'm really awful at, especially with the more people you meet, the harder it is to keep everybody in line and, really remember everything. I think Brian, you and I were just chatting, like it's hard to remember people's names. I'm really bad at that.
Yeah. So I'm reading or almost done with the How to Win Friends and Influence People book by Dale
Mhm.
Carnegie. And one of the things in there is like, learn people's names. I'm like, okay, guilty, you know? Um, so yeah.
I'm so bad at it. Well, and the other thing that's really interesting, you talked about meeting people online and then in person.
Hmm.
What's also really fun is, and I bet you've had this happen because it happens to me a lot. If you go into an MVP event or some sort of event like a conference and you meet somebody who you've been connected with forever on LinkedIn, but you find out that their profile picture is like 10 years old and
Hmm.
now they either have a crazy beard or like don't have hair anymore or just completely changed their style and you're like, oh, that's not at all the same looking person. They're like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" You're like, "Oh, hey." You're like,
Do I know you? Yeah,
"Yeah."
we've been working together for months. Wait, what? Who? Oh, yeah. No, I don't really have that happen, but, it is really cool to meet, like, especially overseas people.
Mhm,
So, um, Gregor Suddy, he runs the Festive Tech Calendar, which actually just completed. This is the first year I haven't done Festive Tech Calendar for a long time. I just have been, way too much going on personally and business-wise that I was just like, "I don't have capacity for it this year," which is a bummer because I love the event, but it was really fun to meet him at the summit a couple years ago and take a selfie and be like, "Hey, how you doing? How's life? You're actually a real person."
yeah, like, we've been talking for years, and I met
Right?
him at I think he was at Build last
Yeah,
year.
he goes to all the things, so he's pretty cool like that.
Yeah, we sit and we had a couple drinks, and I was like, "Oh, so you're the guy who does the thing," and yeah, that was really neat to your point of I've seen him on LinkedIn. I know he does
Mhm.
stuff in the community, and now we're meeting in person.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think well, I think the point is like, you and I have been talking about coaching and whatnot of building out I assume you've been getting similar advice of building out your personal brand, building out your network just so people know of you because to your point, you never know what's going to happen of like when you graduate from college. Hey, Brian, you're my
Right,
friend and I need help with this thing. Hey, Brian, my company's struggling with getting a partnership level. I need certifications.
right.
If you didn't network and people didn't know you, they're going to go out to Google, maybe
Sure.
Microsoft's website. Like, how do people help find you when they need help or when you need help? And how do you build that relationship, right? Because it's not only the people you meet, but then the recommendations, right? Like, I met you because I knew Javier, and he was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
you should meet my friend Brian. He's doing training." That was
Yeah,
a friend of a friend, and now we chat every week.
right.
Like,
Except for when I go AWOL and you
yeah,
still have
except
the
when you
best
double
without
book.
me. No, it's
Uh,
fine. It's fine, I'm not bitter. Um, not at you anyway.
yeah, or when you do all day trainings coming up
Yeah.
here, we'll find some. But,
Yeah. Yeah, the 24th, I'm out for sure. So,
it's, uh it's fun, and it's you just never know where those people are or who you meet or, everybody has a unique story when they start a business, how they have a CTO that they met or who knows what weirdness you'll find just by networking with people and chatting and being involved in the
yeah.
community.
It's really bad because right now, like so I actually train. I've got 11 students right now that are just about to graduate. They'll be done in 2 weeks.
Mhm,
And they're brand new to the tech world. They're awesome people. Each one of them has strengths and awesome things to offer. But like when I was younger and getting out into this stuff, I could just go to Tech Brew or, the weekly or monthly local meetups that were happening all the time. Or Microsoft used to do like evangelism events, right? They would have an actual evangelist come and do these events, and so it would do them at um, your user group, or there were some that were just in theaters. Like you guys probably don't know this, but when .NET was brand new, they had events everywhere that were just in theaters, and you signed up and you went to them for free, and you'd get a copy of Windows XP or SQL Server 2005, a T-shirt, things like that. But that's how Microsoft was able to get us all trained up, which was really cool. I remember doing a few of them and then finally getting to the point where I'm like, "Hey, I actually know this stuff." But in the meantime, having those people to meet. So, I don't know what that looks like for this day and age. Like, you can listen to podcasts all day long, but if you're just listening to us talk, I don't know you. So, I can't help you, right? So, connect with us or connect with people you do listen to or people around you somehow. I don't
mhm.
know. But if there are meetups still that aren't just virtual because COVID, kind of changed everything, then try to go to them. Even if you like, I don't know, maybe, I know there's like a Java user group in Des Moines. Like, I've trained Java, I've never used it professionally. It's always just been academically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have no business going to a Java user group, but it might be fun to meet some people, right? So let's just go. Who cares if it's not the technology I use? And what's really cool is then maybe you get that conversation is like, oh, Java can do this. Well, C sharp can't. Or, hey, did you know C sharp can do that? Or this is how we do it in C sharp. What's it look like in Java? Right. Or, whatever. I'm speculating, but
Right, and then it's well, if I get laid off of my C# job, maybe I can do Java, and now I know Java people.
yeah. And make more money.
It's yeah,
It seems like
maybe.
Java people make more money. Maybe that's just me looking over the fence going, why do you make all the money?
Like, you Java people taking all the money. Yeah, I
Right?
think it's a lot of it's just market by market too, right? Like, some people
Yeah.
don't like C#, some places are bigger on .NET.
I'm
It
so
kinda
glad
just
C sharp open sourced. It's become so much better since then. And Azure giving free credits and having the ability to get used to using it and learn it without having to pay. I mean, I'm a trainer and it doesn't really do me a service to say this, but you can learn Java. You can learn C sharp and Azure in Microsoft Learn on your own. Like, you don't have to pay somebody to do it. Now, I would hope that if you do pay someone like me to do some training, you're getting more value than just you going through it. Number one, it's more organized, likely. Number two, I have stories about some of the stuff because I've been around for a while. Most of the stories are fun because they involve me making mistakes or other people making mistakes that help us to learn. So,
like spending a ton of money in Azure, so hopefully you don't.
like spending a ton of money in Azure, Amazon Web Services. I had a student that spun up the wrong database and ran up an $1,800 bill. But little things like that to somebody updated a $7 million table and dropped all the rows.
Ooh,
Things like that. Like, I'm making up numbers, right, on that. This was so long. There was a scenario that actually happened in the real world where somebody forgot an update or a what is it on the SQL query? It's the where clause, right? They forgot the
mhm,
where clause and did some nasty stuff that was expensive, but you know, backups and things, right? And we don't throw people under the bus to throw people under the bus. We throw people under the bus to laugh and say, let's never do that again,
yeah.
right? Not because they did anything. It's nothing. We just basically are, when we're doing that, we're breathing easy that it wasn't us that made that mistake. And someday it will be. And that's when you need your network to say, hey, we got your back, broski, girlski, dude ski, dudette ski,
Yeah.
whatever you millennials say these days. Is it millennials anymore? Or is there a new generation now? It's Gen Z.
25 is Gen Beta now.
Oh my goodness. Where's Gen Alpha?
24 and up? I don't know where the cutoff is though.
Really?
I just
Now you've lived too long when the generations have moved through the alphabet and they're back to Alpha, Beta, Charlie. That's all right.
So Gen Z is 95 to this is the first Google Gemini summarizer. So if it's wrong, I apologize.
It's AI's fault.
Yeah.
Everything's AI's fault now.
Gen
Ooh.
Z is 95 to 2012. Gen Alpha is 2013 to 2025 and Beta is 25 to 39.
Okay, so Beta's around until basically the end of my life. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to say. Um, no, it's cool. But you said something, or I said something just a second ago, and it triggered something in my head that I want to talk about. AI.
Mhm.
Surprise, surprise, surprise. So I'm hearing, and I think I'm seeing this in myself, that AI is causing us cognitive issues. Let me explain what I mean by that. It is causing us to not be able to compose sentences and get the thoughts out that we're having in our head. because we're getting so reliant on the completion now of AI in whether it's our writing or in our code, that we are stopping to do simple, challenging thought patterns in our brain and thereby losing the ability to capably make those thought patterns, like the neurons, connect. So I've even seen myself struggling with like completing sentences while I'm training. And there's other things going on there with, Christmas burnout and all the other stuff. But it's like, wait a minute. Am I using AI so much or watching so many of these silly reels that my brain is literally getting dumber?
Mm-hmm.
So 2025, don't let the brain rot. There's a new goal.
Well, TikTok's being banned, right? So,
Is it being banned though, or is it just being forced to be sold to an American because of reasons, and then it'll still be around?
well, so I don't know. That's a whole tangent. Uh, Last I heard, they were refusing to sell it, so it was just going to be banned. But I don't know how much of that is just posturing and how much of it's real. So we'll see early January what happens.
Okay.
But
It's early January already.
or sorry, it'd be mid to late January because I think it's like the 16th is when the ban goes into effect.
Okay.
AI can fact check me on that. Um, I do agree to some extent, right? Like, granted, my Copilot subscription just expired, which we'll see if I renew that or not. My personal one, and I was using it to write a markdown blog post, and I hit an infinite loop where it just wanted to keep dumping the same string to the screen over and over and over again.
Seen that too in code. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it also like started talking in circles, and you're just
Yeah.
like, it's not helping me anymore at this point, but some of it was okay. And then sometimes I'm still at the point sometimes where I'm like, I just don't want its help because it's giving me junk. I've
I
had the other stories of where it does help, but
1000% agree with you. I can't stand writing Markdown with Copilot on because I'll start typing like, so I'm a trainer and I create materials, and those materials are instructional by nature, and I know exactly what I want to say when I'm trying to say it. And I'll start typing a sentence and an entire paragraph will just appear. And it
yep.
looks really nice to say just tab. Oh, there's my paragraph. And then I read it and I'm like, no, this is wrong.
Or it's really frustrating if you do actually want to tab and then it tries to like throw something there. You're like, no, I just want the tab.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
that's the worst. I know what you're saying. You're just trying to hit the tab button yourself. This happens a lot if you're trying to indent while you're trying to
mhm,
write Markdown. It's like,
yes,
come on, stop filling it in automatically.
it's like I
So
appreciate the help, but I didn't want it in this case.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, it's getting better. It the I've had people argue, or I've heard people make the argument of AI will replace us.
Negative.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be there anytime soon. I think what it will do is the lower performers. I think a higher performer is going to be able to do exponentially more leveraging AI, and I think that's where the risk is for people, right? Like your high achievers are going to be able to do a ton more, jump in with less context, get stuff done, and move on. Whereas if you're the guy who's writing like the same HTML you've been writing or the same COBOL for 30, 40 years, there are tools being developed that I think can move it to a more modern language quickly and easily. Copilot workspace is one, right? Like you can just put a backlog item in and it does its best to start upgrading stuff. I don't know how good it is, but like Angular JS is another one, right? Of these tech that people didn't want to pay to upgrade. And if you're a developer there, yeah, like maybe you can make your living, you could do bare minimum. Bare minimum is maybe the wrong word, but like not really have to learn and grow. And I think that's going to slowly go away of like you're going to have to use AI because everybody's going to use it. And we'll all have to be more productive because the bar is going to raise on what a the average productivity level of an engineer at that point, I think.
So it's going to make everybody a 10x engineer, is what you're saying.
It could. I think it'll make everybody better. The one thing I'm concerned about, and maybe you can echo this, is, and you can make the argument, you already see this in C sharp, but the abstracting patterns away so that people don't understand what they're doing and why.
Hmm.
So, for example, like dependency injection in .NET Core apps are just singleton patterns. And you can pick why you want a singleton or why you don't in the way you DI something. But at the end of the day, it's a singleton pattern. There is a possibility you could start writing code and start doing patterns that you don't understand why you're doing them. Or if you hit a case where like maybe you don't want one or don't need one, you could potentially be running, Copilot on your own project, and maybe you start using singleton patterns because that's your regular use case, but maybe you don't want one or don't need one. And maybe the patterns and
I
stuff.
love singleton patterns. I love all design patterns,
Yeah.
but
And maybe they
they're
don't matter.
overkill at times.
Right. That's kind of what
You're
I'm getting at is
you're
like maybe
over
knowing.
architecting.
Yeah. The Gang of Four book is nice, but maybe you're over architecting, or maybe you don't even need to identify them, right? Maybe there isn't a. You used to have to explicitly go out of your way to make a singleton. Now you really don't, right? It's just how you do dependency injection. You don't necessarily need to know that's a singleton and call it out. Inheritance just kind of happens for free on some stuff when you start building nested projects and nested types and all that. Like you don't necessarily have to know it's inheritance to know. Um,
But if you know, you're so much better off. So the AI thing that I like to say, and I probably have said it on this podcast, but it's basically like when the slide rule was replaced with the calculator.
yeah.
The slide rule was a really great tool and worked awesome things, and the engineer had to run it and put the right numbers in so that the bridge wouldn't collapse or the road wouldn't let your semi tip over because your load was too heavy and the corner was turning too tight, or the embankment was the wrong direction or something, right?
Hmm.
AI is not fixing that problem right now. And so the slide rule went away and a calculator came along, and now we made twice as many roads in the same year that we would have done had we had to do it manually with a slide rule. But we forgot how to go to the moon. So like we literally don't know how to go to the moon right now. As far as I know, unless Elon's figured it out, or Boeing, but Boeing can't get their people off the space station. So yeah. Anyway, the idea being AI is not replacing us yet. Now, 10, 20, 30 years from now, if what's the singularity is achieved and quantum computing gets kicked in, and all of a sudden we have AI that has some sort of conscious creativity available to it that is organic somehow, that's a different world. That's not the world we're in. So here's a case in point. We had just the other day in class, we were having a very similar discussion to this, and one of my students made a very excellent point. And so I will just paraphrase it. I won't do it justice to how he had said it, but essentially, let me just elaborate on it. How many wrong answers are on Stack Overflow right now? Hundreds of millions.
Hmm.
Does AI know they're wrong? No. And it draws from them. How many times have you gone in and asked AI to help you write a program only to have to tell AI 4 or 5 times to correct the code mistakes that they've made because it isn't doing the right thing or the calculation they're doing is wrong? Now, how many times have you been embarrassed by AI and you said your code is wrong and it said, actually, it's not. You're wrong in the nicest way AI can? I've done that. That's me. I get mad. I posted a Twixt. I call it Twixter now. I don't care. I'm coining the term. Somebody's gonna take it. It's gonna take off. I will know that people have listened to me talk when we start hearing the word Twixter instead of Twitter. and we posted Twixt. So I posted a Twixt that was essentially someday there is going to be a reckoning for people who have mistreated AI agents, and I will be very much in trouble. I'm nice to people, not nice to AI.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I mean, if they are going to become our overlords at some point, we should probably be nicer to them, right? Like friend of the AI, collaborator,
You're giving him ammunition.
join the resistance.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good point. I think it all depends, right? Like on a lot of this, where it all goes. But yeah, I think it. Everybody wants to focus on it, but like it's the same as the computer, right? Like that drastically, the home computer dramatically changed everybody's lives, right? AI could dramatically change everybody's lives, and guess what? You're still going to get up tomorrow, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and still go to work. It just might not be the same exact job you're doing today.
It better not
Which
be the same job you're doing today.
right, and that's kind of where I don't know if we'll ever get to the point that AI is crazy enough to do that kind of stuff. I think they have metrics of like the first with technology, the first single person $1 million company. Um, I think the next one's like $1 billion of, and maybe, smaller other people can be more productive and you deal with less junk. So like maybe we can have smaller companies be super successful because they're, super agile and find their niche. But I don't know if we're ever going to be the point where, you know, no, there's no jobs, nothing to do because AI is doing everything that we don't want to. Because you also get to the point then, well, look at it now in gaming, right? Any online game, there's a way to do a bot,
What?
and it's policed by AI, right? So you have AI fighting AI already, and if it got too good, yeah, whoever's using its stats in their game might be great, but nobody's going to play with them, right? Because then it's um, you have subhuman level, you can react too quick. Uh, I like there's somebody who tried to use AI to play StarCraft, and it was like it could consistently win on a fairly mid or bad opponent, and that was about it.
Hmm.
So I think I don't know. I don't think we'll ever get to the point that due to power or whatnot that we'll have AI overlords, but I think there is definitely a lot of benefits. People are doing genome sequencing, um, able to synthesize materials that don't exist just by running a bunch of experiments on AI. That was a really cool one that came out of, I forget the company off the top of my head, but basically they just used a bunch of AI and said, hey, go find me a synthetic way to make this protein. And it could do, multiple combinations. So you don't have to go into a real lab and do it for real. So who knows where this will be? I think
Yeah.
for all we know right now, it could be just like blockchain. And 5 years from now, we might be like, hey, remember when everybody thought OpenAI was going to change the world and maybe they go bankrupt and run out of money? And it was yesterday's news.
Hmm.
I don't think we're there, but yeah, I mean, it could be, the biggest mistake of all the tech giants thinking AI has changed the world. And who knows, maybe 5, 10 years from now, it's not here to stay. I think I think it is at some capacity. That's my own personal belief as an AI MVP and somebody who enjoys AI. But with all technology, right? Like the bros on Twixter and
Hmm.
TikTok and everything else would tell you that blockchain and cryptos were the thing. And now, I mean, cryptos are still around, but I'd say the blockchain as a whole, you don't see people saying they're blockchain developers nearly as much as you did
I thought there
five
was a
years
whole
ago.
new thing that's coming out that's based on blockchain. Maybe I'm imagining
It
like,
could be. That's not my space of expertise,
yeah,
nor do I really. I mean,
you don't want to do blockchain. I remember when Bitcoin was like 2 cents a Bitcoin. I wish I'd have bought like 1,000 of them. But I was like, at the time, honestly, I was like, who the heck would spend real money on digital coins? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And then within 5 years, people were paying $25 for virtual pumpkin seeds on like Farmville. So I should have read the I should have read the writing on the wall at that point. But no, too thick. So
Yeah.
Hmm.
Who knows, man? We'll see where it all goes. And if you want to be a part of the podcast or want to chat with us, let me or Brian know. We're always open for sponsors. If you
Can
want
you
to go
hear
that route, or if you just want to come and chat with us, reach out. Any other last shout outs you want to give, Brian?
Can you hear the music?
No? No, your mic's doing a good job at sounding it out.
Really?
Yeah.
What a bummer. I just turned on the Terminator theme. Because we were talking about AI fighting.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Now we'll see if Brian's singing can get us demonetized. Not that we make
Right?
anything.
Or like copyright infringement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Copyright this. Terminate this. That's a Worf. No, wait. I'm sorry. Oh, he said assimilate this. Oh my goodness. All my Star Trek buddies are never going to let me hear the end of that one.
That's going to be the teaser now.
Assimilate this.
There you go. Awesome. It was great chatting with you, Brian. I think it's a fun way to start off 2025 with a little bit of a reintroduction, a re-leveling, and we'll see everybody next week.
Yeah, let us know what your 2025 goals are and how we can help you get there in the comments and all the other things.
Yeah, and like and subscribe and share with a friend.
And buy Alec a coffee because he's really thirsty for the barista Azure thing.
Awesome. See everybody next week. Bye, everybody.
See ya.